Hi there. It's August the 26th, and today we're beginning a new book in the scriptures, in the Greek scriptures, and we are looking at Paul's second letter to the Corinthians. N.T. Wright, in his biography of Paul, highlights the difference that there is between 2 Corinthians and 1 Corinthians. And he, along with some other scholars, want to put it down to Paul's perhaps having spent time in prison in Ephesus. Paul there's about 3 years has elapsed between the writing of the first epistle, the first letter to the Corinthians, around 53 AD, and now we're in about 56 AD. And in that time, Paul has spent time in the western Turkish city of Ephesus. This was the great city of Artemis, the great of the Ephesians, the one they shouted about, the one there was all the trouble about. And N.T. Wright and other scholars with him suggest that Paul went through a period of tremendous opposition there, so much so that he ended up in prison. Now, this isn't something that is covered so much in Luke's Acts. It's not really discussed in Acts, but a lot of scholars are suggesting that books like Ephesians, Colossians, and so on are written from prison, and that this imprisonment was not in Rome but in Ephesus. It certainly seems to fit with how Paul opens the book here. He opens the letter, and we're reading from verses 1 to 11. And Paul gives us a normal greeting. He brings the greeting that is standard. He starts, if you like, with the sender. He says this is from Paul. He also says this is from Timothy as well. Again, it shows us a Paul who's not acting solo. He works together with others in team. Even though he's the great apostle with the great calling, he's always found linked with others. He's writing to the Corinthians, who he's written to previously, but he's also writing to the believers in Achaia, which is the region around Corinth. And so it seems as though Corinth has grown into other assemblies around the region. And so he's writing to them. But his immediate expression is one of God comforting him, God coming and comforting him through a period that has been really tough. He says he even faced the despair of life itself. So again, N.T. Wright points out that there is a real expression of grief in him, something he's gone through which has really tested his faith. But he says that God has comforted him, and therefore he's drawing on the comfort of God, and he is wanting to comfort others with that same comfort. And it also talks about sharing in the sufferings that they have shared in his suffering. So he's been through some sort of period of great suffering and great pressure. He says he doesn't want them to be unaware or ignorant of the things that he's gone through in Asia. So that points to the area of around Ephesus. Ephesus is part of Asia Minor, and therefore he's pointing to the things that he's been through when he's in this area of Asia, or what we call today Turkey. And he says it's almost been too heavy for him to bear. It seems such a great peril that they've been in. All these words seem to indicate that Paul has been through a really life-changing, life-deepening experience, and that comes out in this letter that we're going to be reading. We also don't know exactly the sequence of events. There seem to be other letters that Paul has written to Corinth, including one that's traditionally called the painful letter. We don't have that letter, but he refers to other letters that have been written. There's been an ongoing correspondence between Paul and Corinth. And the other thing that is really painful for Paul is that Corinth seems to be questioning, even rejecting his apostleship. So Paul is going through all sorts of crushings in his spirit. This is part, in a sense, of the journey with Jesus. Jesus promised that his followers would go through tough times. They promised that they would be rejected and persecuted. And Paul is facing that, but he doesn't let that destroy him. As we'll see in this letter, there is hope. But on the days when we're going through those tough things, on the days when we feel as though our circumstances are imprisoning us, we can find the God of all comfort who will be there for us, and he will comfort us with the knowledge that he is in control, that he is walking with us through every difficult circumstance. Have a very good August the 26th.